Welcome to the KFA Podcast, where our mission is to keep faith alive by kicking ass.
I just want to start by getting to know you a little bit. Who is Jessica?
I grew up in Hawaii, and I've lived in Vancouver for 23 years this year.
Why'd you leave Hawaii?
Well, for love originally.
Okay.
I got married when I was really young, and he was stationed in Westport, Washington, and so that was my first Washington adventure. And then I lived in Santa Barbara and went to school down there, lived in San Diego for a year, and then came back up here to do coffee businesses.
Okay.
So I was in the espresso industry for 14 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What company was this?
Ground Central Station was the name of my drive-thrus.
Okay.
And I had 2 locations for a while. One that was like my big one. And then I did coffee carts at Kaiser, different Kaiser locations.
Okay.
Actually,
cool.
The current KW building was one of my locations. And
That's
then
so
Cascade Park Kaiser.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So coffee business, I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
What are the similarities and differences, challenges with that compared to?
Well, I think that, every business is relationship based.
Right.
And so it was an easy transition to real estate for me, because that's what it's all about. Building your database is the same as, making really good cups of coffee and everybody spreading the word.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it is very similar in that way.
So when did you go straight from the coffee business to real estate, or was there?
Yeah,
anything
actually,
in between?
I had my last location. I'd had my son. My son was 2.5 when I got my real estate license 11 years ago, and I wanted to have more time that I had control over, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes in real estate, but not like scheduled clock hours, really, like you do it with the business. And so I kept that location for 8 months of my first year of real estate, and then it just got to be too much because I had closings, and in medical facilities, you can't hear people, like you lose, so I'm on the phone with escrow and I couldn't hear what they were saying. So
I can imagine that's difficult.
Yeah, so as soon as I could, I ended up selling and made great connections at Kaiser, though. A lot of my clients actually, early clients and throughout the repeat clients, have been from Kaiser also.
Yeah, you probably had a real good network just walking into the business, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been primarily referral based since you started, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What did and just because we have a lot of listeners that are pretty new in the business, what did that first year look like for you?
So when I first started, I was on a team, and they were a short sale bankruptcy team. It was 2012, and so we had a lot of leads like that.
Cut your teeth right in the hard stuff.
Yes, and I think at one point I don't even know how many pending, but if you've ever worked a short sale bankruptcy, it's a whole layer of carve-out fees and all these different things, and so not all of them made it to closing.
Right.
So my first year, I think I sold 13 houses.
That's still phenomenal.
Yeah, it was good, and I have a little son, and so it was challenging. I would say that my biggest stresses early on, especially he's 13 now, was just making sure I'm like giving 100 to everything.
Right.
Like being a good mom, being present.
Pulled in many directions.
Yes.
And,
And I think a lot of realtors feel that way that have kiddos.
Totally. Well, and it's funny, you say getting into the business to kind of control more of your schedule and time. I think a lot of people, that's like the reason they first get interested and jump into the business. At least for me, when I started, I felt like for similar reasons, I wanted to be my own boss. And then I realized I'm actually chasing after a bunch of people, and they're my bosses.
And it's really like 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and weekends. And how did you? So now your kid was, you said 2.5 when you first got in.
my license.
So you probably early on didn't have to deal with like sports and weekend stuff and the conflicts there.
No, I was a single mom pretty quickly into my first year of real estate, and so I had the support network of my daycare and some of my friends, and then I just kind of built that up, like a lot of mommy friends, and they were helpful with me with that, because sometimes you'll have showings, and honestly I took him with me. I just packed him up, and he was potty training with one of my clients. It's funny, they were on a short sale bankruptcy that we had listed on our team, and he was potty training, and so he had to go in and use the bathroom, and they were like, I said, this is probably going to be your toilet, can you use it? And they had grandkids, and they were like, oh, yes, absolutely. So now a lot of my clients remember him from when he was little, and he used to love stairs because we had a ranch. Stairs, ceiling fans, garage door openers. So, like, we always had to take little trips, you know. So my clients got kind of a kick out of that, too. So I think that's one really cool thing about real estate. Like, you can be your authentic self, like whoever you are.
And attract those clients.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. There's room for everyone, really, you know?
Yeah. So in that first year, do you remember how long it took to kind of get that first transaction under your belt?
Well, it was funny. I was thinking about this today. I was telling a client about it this morning. My first 5 days in real estate, I was in a multiple offer situation.
Really?
Yeah.
First 5 days of having your license?
Yes. Well, at starting. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so it was funny. The agent on the other side was a seasoned agent. I don't know if I should say names, but I really like her a lot, and recently told her about this. But she really impacted me, and I've said it to newer agents since. It's like, I said, well, I'm kind of new, because, you know, fake it till you make it.
Sure,
so you want to tell people that you're like 5 days in.
Almost at a week.
Yeah. But she was like, she goes, oh, we're all new in real estate. Every transaction's different. There's always something new to learn. So don't think you're too new. But she didn't know I was 5 days. But but that was pretty great to do that. But it took. I think I closed my first one in March, and I started in December. Okay. So it was about 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I had a brutal first year, though. I had a lot of things go wrong. And my team lead at the time, Jeffy Sotelo, was telling me, you know, Jess, these things don't happen to somebody in like 20 years of real estate that are happening to you right now. He's like, so if you can make it through this, you can make it through anything. And I think that's how my espresso years helped me, because, you know, it wasn't my first rodeo with like, you know, defeat or whatever.
Setbacks. And well, it's still that's a really, really strong first year. I can imagine how, at least, you know, the learning curve was pretty quick for you, because you learn by experience and transactions. And
I think it's like important too. I really, from the very beginning, surrounded myself with people who are a lot better than me. Yeah. And I think it's really important to do that in general in any 100%. Business. And they've always inspired me and taught me a lot. And I have a lot of really good friends in real estate that are really high producing people. Yeah. So some people think I produce a lot, but then I feel like they produce a lot. So then I'm always, you know, looking. For me, I'm always just trying harder to be better, compete with myself all the time.
Yeah. And what are your goals nowadays? Are you trying to close more, or are you?
Yeah, every year I like to close more than I did the year before. It's, you know, I'm goal oriented like that. Sure. But I also realize we have highs and lows. Like I've had, you know, kind of rough years sometimes. Like 2019 was an awful year. Like had a car accident the year, like all kinds of stuff happened.
Yeah,
life. Yeah. And, you know, and sometimes you have to, you know, really focus on different things, and that's success. You know, that you were able to get through hard times, you know, so.
Totally.
So, yeah, and I'm actually really thankful for those years now, because I've had a lot of really good years, and it's like you can look back and you have that perspective.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So then when something goes wrong, you lose something, seller, you know, you don't get your listing, whatever it is, you can just say, well, I survived 2019.
Yeah,
or
whatever that year is for you.
Yeah.
What was 2023 like? Because I know that, you know, what are the numbers? I think 30-year low on deals to go around.
Yeah.
Maybe even less transactions than 2008 is at least what I've been told.
Yeah, I did okay. I mean, I did 23 transactions.
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm really thankful for that. I guess the average is 3 or whatever in our area.
Well, the numbers that just came out, 49% of realtors closed 0 to 1 deal last year.
Which is crazy, because you do have to, I mean, things happen. Who knows what all of it is, you know, like it could be life circumstance also, and different things can happen with people. But you want to really stay up on things. We've had a lot of forms changes this year, right? And a lot of scrutiny nationwide really on realtors. So I think it's important to stay fresh. It's why, like, I'm heavier on the listing side typically, and I love doing that, but I think it's really important to work with buyers too. Like when people just say they're only doing one thing, it's, you know, I feel like you need to work with buyers too to know what's going on, know what to prep your seller for on the listing side, and then also to prep your buyer for, hey, sellers think like this, you know, so, and then to just be up on your forms.
And through all the changes, forms changes, NAR stuff, interest rates up and down, and all the stuff that you probably personally had to deal with in 2019, in seasons like that, how are you able to protect your mindset and not fall into too much of a slump?
Well, I think like you can stay in that place for only so long. You know, like 2019, I let myself wallow a little bit. Like it was rough. And then I started, I kind of cleaned house friendship wise too. Like some people that like, it was hard to, you know, come figure out sometimes like people don't always have your best interest at heart, or where you're placing your energy is maybe better placed somewhere else, you know? And so what I started kind of doing was like meditating, like not listening to things. I'm a big believer in laws of attraction, and what you think about, you bring about. And so when you're focused on things, you're going to bring more of that to you. Yeah. And so that's what's hard about that, when you stay in that place for too long. Yeah. In real estate, it's like you have like this triangle, right? And at the top is your mindset, like literally your head right there. And everything comes from that. And so, you know, sense of humor, stay in that place, look for joy, like things that bring you joy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is just me personally, like when I find myself in seasons like that, or in even just however short or long, I feel like I tend to retract. I think I'm a natural introvert. And so I kind of go into my just not paying attention to relationships, and like you mentioned before, the importance of being around people who elevate you. Yeah. People who are closing more deals, or that you aspire to be more like. Do you experience any of that in those types of seasons?
Like when you're down,
just kind of retracting.
Not wanting to be out.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes I'll just, like, I love being at home. I'm kind of boring. Yeah. I posted this meme the other day about that. It's like whispering to yourself, you're still a rock star at 9 p.m. after you take your, you know. But I like to be at home. I like to be with my dogs. And I do kind of retract sometimes when I'm like that. I totally know what you're saying. But some of my friends that push me a little bit, like close friends in real estate, they'll kind of give me like the tough talk a little bit, and then it kind of pushes me.
That's great to have friendships.
Almost like you're mad, you know, like you're like, no, I'm not going out like that, you know.
100%. Man. So this past year, I just kind of want to touch on it a little bit, because I know we're hopefully transitioning into a new season with a little more optimism on the horizon. Right now for me. That's what it seems like. That's the talk around town, and rates I think just improved yesterday. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. What did they shake out at?
I don't.
I was trying to watch it.
5? I don't. I'm not a lender.
Was it high fives? 5.4. Really? Wow.
Connor's shaking his head no.
I thought it was 6s.
Well, we know that the jobs report impacted, and the Fed's remarks were probably another rate cut coming sooner.
Yeah, because he didn't do it yesterday, right?
Yeah. So, but anyways, as far as 2023 went, are there any like major lessons you learned through that season? Because it's probably, I mean, so you said 11 years in the business, probably one of the first like big shifts that you've experienced. Yeah,
it was interesting. It kind of, you started to feel it in 2022. It was a little bit of a shakeup. It's like, you know, and
rates doubled overnight almost.
Yeah, and we had all been just crazy with the craziness of the market, and you got to get there, and there's 24 offers, and oh my gosh, and to go to that, it was weird, because it's like it did make me think for a second, like mindset, just like, whoa, what if we just stopped, and I just really feel like something I can take away from this past year, because I actually did better last year than 2022, just a little bit. But
let's not skip over that. That's impressive. That's amazing.
I mean,
you're probably in the 1% of.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know. It's I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
Just as far as lessons that you might have learned in 2023 from the shift.
Well, so I truly believe in like what I'm doing here. Like I do really believe that real estate is your best investment. Yeah. It's like, so anybody, even my little first time home buyer I was talking about earlier, like he's building his wealth right now. Right. Like even if it might be a little bit of a crazy rate, even though I think our rates are similar to 2000 right now. Right. Yeah. But anyway, for recent years, the perspective of that, but he's building his wealth, and in 1 year he may have built, 25 $50,000 of equity in it.
Right.
Like you just, so it's really important to not keep paying someone else's mortgage. Like I really do believe that,
right.
So it's your best investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just sticking to the core internal belief that this is the right move for most people.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's really good, because I think, a lot of agents that I've talked to struggled with that because they're seeing these payments and they're like, how do I convince somebody to pay $4,500 for a ranch and like that, and so you get into your own head and you almost, I've met several people who have felt guilty and have been almost talking their clients out of purchasing.
Well, so that one of the things, like at the beginning of the year, one of my friends was talking to me and I was kind of helping her through one of those moments. And I was telling her, the average person doesn't even know what it is.
Right.
Like we know it. And that's why we're like, oh gosh, that's such a high payment. But like, it isn't 1972 now. Like in 1972, people thought that, I think the most popular car that year was like the Volkswagen Bug or something. I remember reading this thing, and it was like $1,200. And like, that was expensive at that time. Like I think people's perspectives change and yeah, I mean, you stay the course. Like we haven't lost value here at all. Like our property values,
100%. There's just such a
climbing.
Shortage
of
homes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that factor. And it's kind of an interesting market for that reason. It's like, it's still all the listings I've put on in recent months, except for one, which really surprised me. And I have no idea why it was like that, but they all have multiple offers. I think you have to try harder, to make, it's not just 4 walls and a roof will sell it like 2021. But, just making everything, clean and tidy and, educating your seller on what needs to happen. And because we're still getting over list, like we're still selling at list.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that.
For sure. No, and I think that it's still a seller's market, despite the rates.
It kind of is, yeah.
And it's kind of it's funny how it kind of shook out because the demand maybe went down from the payment side and people being deterred by that, but the supply also equally went down because no one wants to let go of their 3% interest rate home.
Right. And then less buyers, it's like less competition. So it is very true what everybody was saying. It's like you have less people right now. So now is the time.
Right.
And then when everybody comes out, because I'm kind of seeing it now, like one of my friends just had 17 offers on a ranch they put
Holy
on.
Moly.
Under 400.
We're already back there?
Well, yeah. And then I had.
In January.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. And it's funny because sellers always think wait till spring, and it's like there's no time like the present because then you're competing way less, with other houses.
Yeah, totally. Man, that's wild. So are you starting to think that the market's heating up again? What do you think this year is going to shape up to be if you had to pick a year in the past that would be most similar to?
I don't know if I can pick a year. I personally feel internally that I'm going to have my best year yet. I don't know why. I just feel that way, and I'm going with it.
I believe you.
But I think that it's going to be a good year. I think that it is heating up. I think that there's way more people out.
Yeah.
The agents seem to be like on top of it. Buyers are still getting closing costs. I just put a ranch on in the Heights on Friday, and we had a lot of activity, and then we accepted an offer yesterday, so we're pending on that. And we bumped up to cover closing costs, but we, because there's a little room on there, and we are paying like $9,000 for a rate buy down for that buyer.
Wow.
So it's still happening, and then we're having an inspection, but the agent wrote it for a quick timeline, so it's things like that. Like they're still sweetening the deals, but it's not totally insane like it was.
Like there's a little bit of wiggle room on both sides.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Kind of finding a happy
which
medium.
I feel is really healthy.
I think that's the best place to be.
I think so too.
I feel like since 2019, it's been super hot, which has its pros and everybody wants to buy a home, but also you're kind of going crazy running around and having to make 6 offers, per client to land one sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also it sucks when it's crickets, but
I know. It's funny. It feels better than, it's funny when I first started, because I was on a short sale bankruptcy team, it was like the equity listings were the hot ones, right? Because it was still coming out of that whole thing. And so I was running all the time. I mean, that's why I would take my son with me to showings and stuff. It's like I wanted to make sure my clients got in there, got to see it really fast.
Yeah.
We had that gave them the best possible chance of getting the house, And I feel like it's just grown from there, and it's never slowed down. And then now it's kind of weird, but it's still not slow. It's just kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not slow like for a listing, you know, in days on market.
Yeah.
It might be slow from realtors' perspective in a different way though, because they're like, well, less clients and less leads.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
whatnot,
Like they're used to just running.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So 2024, we're a month in as of today. I can't believe that.
Can you believe it?
That's
I guess you just said you
unbelievable.
could.
I feel like I feel like we just started.
Yeah.
It still feels like 2023. But for this year, what are your goals like professionally and personally?
Well, I'm actually personally trying to get more strong, like do strength training and try to take care of myself a little bit better, like not, because I tend to get kind of derailed by phone calls and this and that, and then I'll be like, oh, I'll go tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
And so
prioritizing yourself and your health.
And I'm a cardio person, and I'm trying to, because I've read all these things, and you know, everybody's like, you need to do strength training, and I'm upping my protein, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And then business-wise, I really am working on getting a lot of listings, and then of course buyers, and yeah, I just really feel like I'm going to have a great year.
What are the levers you're pulling to try and get more listings?
It kind of started heating up for me in the fall last year. I got really, really busy in the fall. And then when I was slower last year, I had a weird lull from like May to June, had a lot of things kind of fall out that I thought were coming. And just when I thought, oh no, you know, and then I had to like retrain my thinking really fast. And then you just got to do the activity, we call it, right? Like make the calls, reach out to people, see what people have going on, because you know how last year and even now I'm sure it's more of a life change, relocation, you know,
I have to,
divorce,
or need to,
married, had a baby, like, you know, whatever. So they're needing to move and get a different space. But so that kind of stuff was happening. And so I think by doing the activity, you get the ball rolling, like energy wise too. You just kind of put it out there, and then more stuff starts coming. So that's kind of what has happened. And then a lot of I have a lot of referrals, agents I work with in Oregon too, and then my just my database and social media too. I'm, you know, always doing little real estate plugs in there, you know, to make sure people don't forget.
What are some things you do? Because I know you're heavy on the sphere and taking care of your people. What is your blueprint for that?
Calls, calling people, reaching out. If you are friends with some of your database and social media, you kind of keep up on their lives, you know, and so you know, you can reach out to them through that even and be like, oh my gosh, I love that, you know, like
I love
so
that.
cool that you did this, you know.
To actually paying attention to life stuff, and it's not just a scripted, okay, I need to call these people this week because that's what I planned type of thing. Okay.
I'm pretty, I'm into being genuine. Like, I'm not a fake person. So I that's why, I've never been a huge scripty, call-y kind of person like that. I'm more, I have to connect with somebody, and then if you read my reviews, my clients really, like we were talking earlier about 24-hour days and whatever, you know, that is kind of how I am. I'm extremely responsive, and you know, I return calls right away. I answer my phone. I, you know, keep up with people, and people, you know, I'll answer them at 10 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning, you know, just, I'm kind of that way. I can't let a text just sit there and, you know, not answer it. So I think that that's just really important, staying connected. Yeah.
How do you balance that with staying present with family and not upsetting them? Because I know that's a challenge that I feel like all of us have to deal with.
Yeah, it is. It's every year, I don't do resolutions, but every year I'm I want to be more present. It's my thing every year. Sure. And that's something that I'm always working on. My son, now that he's 13, he'll say little things, you know, to me now, Mom, put down your phone. And I'll be like, oh gosh, it makes me feel bad. You know, it's the worst feeling. And I just try to really focus. It's weird with phones and everything anyway, you know, you're at a sporting event, you're not really just taking it in, you're taking a picture, you know, and we've all kind of gotten to be in that way kind of in our world, you know, a little bit. So I think it's important. It's important to do those things and, you know, connect in that way with people, but then also, be present. Yeah. So that's a thing. I'm always working on that. I
think we all are. I think we definitely all are. But no, I think that's always been my biggest challenge with real estate. I mean, being younger, I don't have kids yet, so you know, it's a little bit less troublesome. But I mean, I thought I'd have kids by now. My dad had me really young, and I've almost been hesitant to in ways that like I want to be less busy first. I want to be able to enjoy all those moments, and so that's been something, at least me personally, that's like almost scary for me. Just because I struggle with that and I know how difficult it is. So
it is really a challenge. I know a lot of my friends feel that way too. And then people I've known that were just absolute machines in real estate have had kids and have chilled out a little bit on it. Like not really completely, they're still them, but they definitely have been great parents and kind of realize they have a little perspective on it.
Sure.
So, I think it's really important. I mean, you do not get these years back though. And I swear to God, it flew by so fast.
I know.
It's crazy.
I can only
Don't
imagine.
make me cry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I want to go back. I know you kind of touched on 2019, and maybe that's the time frame. Maybe it's a different time frame, but can you go into, or I guess reflect on any time in your past where you almost gave up on something? And this doesn't have to be real estate related, but almost gave up on something, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on subjects like this because I think there's a lot of people who even right now are still very close. And I think that like we all know that the sun is starting to come out and better days are ahead, but people are still feeling defeated right now. So if you can think of anything, any story.
Last year I was asked to be on a realtor panel, and it was interesting. I was talking to a couple agents about it because at that time everybody was talking about how a lot of agents were getting out, and we had this big discussion about it. And I feel sad for that, for people. It's like dream killer. You know, like if you had this big dream and you wanted to do it. Like when I was first, I would say not 2019, although that was really rough. I lost like 18 sides that year.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. Yeah. And then it was just a whole bunch of stuff. It was crazy. Like I feel like that was a total.
Just deals falling through.
Yeah. You know, and then there was a lesson in there though. It's like probably 9, I believe it was 9 of them came back around the next year. It was just like a timing thing and, you know, genuine things like layoffs and whatever, you know, where people just couldn't do. But, you know, I had it on my board and it was happening. So, you know, but you never get attached to the outcome in real estate. That's lesson number 1, right? Like you don't count your chickens. And so that was something that was kind of like my bad, you know, like I had to like check myself a little bit and be like, why were you even doing that in the first place? Because you don't ever own anything until you own it, you know?
Right.
And then, so that was that. But I would say, early on, I think it was like 2014. I had kind of a bunch of setbacks and just kind of a weird time, and it was a different time in my life too. And I met with my mentor buddy, best friend / coachy realtor friend, and I won't mention his name on here, but I asked him, and
it's okay to name drop in good light.
Okay, it's Harris.
I'll just break our mic. Harris, we love Harris.
Yeah. We had coffee, and I was like, you know, do you think this is right for me? Like, and he's like, I don't know, is it? You tell me.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, it is. And then, and so there is no plan B for me. Like, this is it. Like, it's planned. And so I think like sometimes people got into real estate maybe, or anybody that gets into anything, right, that's new, like maybe they're not all in yet, you know? Which is why I didn't stay in my coffee business longer than 8 months. Like I was done, you know, and I'm on to the next thing. But I would say that's the only time I ever felt like that. Even in 2019, I wasn't giving up. Yeah. I just knew that I was in a low point, you know, and that I was.
Do you think it's easier for people to give up in the beginning? Maybe not just from deal flow, but just because they're not so hardened in the process and have seen the things and. Yeah,
I guess that's the difference between people who succeed and fail in general, right? Yeah. It's like you don't give up when the going gets tough, right? Like you just keep on, and you got to take it as a lesson. And you almost have to, there's like a Bible quote about this, but count it all good, right? Like count everything as a blessing kind of, like bad things, good things. Because you can't really thank God for the good things if you don't thank for the bad things. Right. Like it's all part of
Well, and that kind of ties back to the mindset thing, right? I mean, how everything's kind of happening for you, not to you.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and you decide how, it's like your attitude, right?
Yeah.
Like an attitude of gratitude is important. it is really important to be grateful and thankful. That's a big one for me, because you can't be almost like upset even when you're thankful.
Right.
You know, like you can't
I
be
think
down.
that's a proven, isn't that something?
I think
I heard
proven.
something like in the brain can't be
both things at the same time.
Both things at the same time, yeah.
It's like it can't process it.
Yeah.
And you do just change your whole mindset when you come from a grateful place. And if you do come from a helping place, like when you're talking about making calls and things like that, like if you really come, because I am a helper, I guess it's from being in customer service forever.
Yeah.
Like I waited tables for 7 years, and then I got my coffee businesses for 14 years. It's like I translate that to real estate. Like I am in customer service. It's like a fancy customer service, but you know, you're in customer service. You're helping people with like the biggest thing ever. And so when you call them, you know, like when you make calls or you're talking to your clients, like you're really there to help them.
Sure.
And if you really believe that, you know, it's not fake.
Right.
You know, so that's where you're coming from.
Yeah, and people can tell. I mean,
I
they
think
know
they
when
totally can tell.
they know when you're faking it, and they know when
Yeah.
you're just trying to talk them into a deal to get a commission check because you're
Yeah.
desperate. With your mindset, how have you seen it develop even throughout your life, like growing stronger? This is just something that I love to talk about. So.
Well, I grew up in Hawaii, and we moved there when I was like 3.5, 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so all my friends are local. Like I am the white one.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up haole in Hawaii. And so it was tough at times. I mean, like, but I was still determined to always, you know, be popular and have fun and do my thing. And I was, you know, and I just kind of, I think that probably strengthened me quite a bit, to be honest. Like it kind of shaped me who I'm an assimilator to dominant culture always. So like in sales, it helps you to be that way. Like you can read somebody right away what they're about, and you can kind of connect with them on that way. Cause like I have a lot of different, I always laugh that I have like duality of nature, but I'm all kinds of people in one person. So, you know, I genuinely understand somebody at different stages of their life, you know, whatever that might be. First time home buyer, you know, like somebody selling a $3 million property, you know, like you can kind of clue into that, you know, and so that has helped me a lot with mindset. I would say I'm a predominantly positive person, generally speaking, like from childhood, I would say.
That's really good.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we all have our moments.
Sure. As far as your ability to connect with people, do you think that that's given you more empathy and just understanding from...
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm majorly empathetic, almost too much. Like there's been times in my life, I remember doing this with my drive-through. I've done it in really tough real estate transactions. I'll say to myself, like, I wish I could be hypnotized not to care, like just to not care so much, because I truly do care. I mean, I'm the agent that's out there, you know. we were doing twilight photos last night, and I'm waiting for my photographer to get there, and I'm like scrubbing with Clorox wet wipes, like, you know, mildew off vinyl siding. I mean, like, that's the kind of person I'm sweeping garages. You know, I don't, I stop at electrical. No, just kidding. I don't do anything like that. But I do care a lot. I care a lot about the client, like how they feel in the transaction, their experience in the transaction. Because, you know, when someone's unhappy, they're going to tell a whole bunch of people that they're unhappy. Totally. You know what I mean? But and then, so I just want them to always be happy with me too. And I give of myself like quite a bit for that reason. And then I like to help people through it, because I know it's hard. Like, it's hard sometimes. Like, sometimes, you know, a husband's passed away and the wife has to do all the things, and I feel it a lot. Like, I feel people's feelings. And so I think it's good and bad sometimes, probably, you know.
But I can imagine just being able to connect with your clients on a deeper level like that. That's probably, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's probably given you a lot of success in the long run.
I would say so. Yeah, my husband always says that. He's like, if you were any different, you wouldn't be you. Right. You know, so. Right.
But, you know, people remember how you make them feel. Yeah. And I think that, like you said, you know, you don't want any negative reviewers running around town with your name and spewing it in a bad way. But, I mean, I've always thought about that and like for me early on in my career, I mean, I started really young, and I was transactional, like for the first couple of years, for sure. And it took a few years to realize, like, oh, okay. Not that I wasn't doing what I could, but I think in a lot of ways it was a little bit fake, because I was like, I want to grow, I want to get more deals, I want to do this, do that. Yeah. And that compound effect, I didn't get to experience as much as,
because you're in the activity.
Yeah.
I totally relate to that. Like, one thing that I've really noticed lately is I'm really my authentic self with my clients. Like, like I always was. Like, I'm not a fake person, but I was like what you're saying. Like, you're if you're not transactional, you're caught up in the job and the activity of it and making sure everything's okay and you've got this done and this done and everybody's good with everything and you've met your timelines. I mean, we have all these things on us, right? And so it's hard to not be transactional. And then, of course, you want a lot of transactions.
Sure.
But it's funny, I feel like in the last 4 years or so, I'm really myself with my clients. Like, I used to be more, cautious about being my goofy self because I like to, be funny.
So you're kind of revealing more of your true self, like below the waterline of the
just
iceberg.
The business transaction.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always did, but I would withhold a little bit. Like, I wouldn't, maybe say some things that I would say. I mean, I still, read the room, of course, but,
Sure.
but I'm definitely more me,
Yeah.
which I love because then it just feels better, all of it.
Have you found, since you kind of made that transition, that it's given space for others to open up and create more deep connections too?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes things a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Too, which I love.
Totally. Yeah, because then you don't have to be walking on eggshells.
Yeah. And if you can find some fun in the moment, it's always the best way.
Yeah. What have you, and this will probably be one of the last questions before we wrap up, but what have you experienced or found, and maybe that might be the answer right there, that's led to more of a joyful life amidst the chaos of real estate in this profession?
Well, I mean, I think that like my family life is really great. Like I love my husband to pieces. Like we laugh so much and we're so goofy, like just making fun of, I don't know if anybody watches Wheel of Fortune in here, but.
Oh yeah, sometimes.
I'm pretty good at Wheel of Fortune, I'm just going to say. But anyway, but we laugh because everybody's just so goofy on that show.
Yeah.
So we have so many jokes going all the time with that. But yeah, my life is pretty good. I'm pretty thankful for my life.
That's great.
Yeah, so I definitely, a
just
lot
being
of joy.
Grateful kind of it comes back to gratitude and that mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, before we sign off, is there anything, if somebody's listening to this and they maybe need to buy a home, why should they use Jessica?
I will be your biggest advocate and work really, really hard to help you reach your goals. And if it's selling or buying any of that, I will go all in on it for you.
All right, sounds good. Any last words of wisdom for the audience?
I think that I would say if you're wanting to change anything about your life, like anything, I mean, it relates to anything, like go for it and do it.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Release
and go
the
all
fear.
in. Yeah, release the fear.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun.
Great.